Statistics said that by 2012, a 63 million person shortage is something that we should expect as employers. And that gap has to be filled. And the reality is we're going to have to cast that net as wide as we possibly can in order to be able to fill that gap. But the true challenge is enabling that mix to work. So we've got all of these generations in the workplace at the same time. We have individuals that remember when the bell went off, when it was time to sit down and do their work at Timken. And then we have individuals that, don't even take off their iPod, when they come in the door. And if it's 8:05 or 8:30, hey, I'm here. I'm going to get the work done. So how do we enable that mix to work? That's our biggest challenge. We present some very unique opportunities, I feel, to candidates, both from the entry level all the way up to the senior leadership level. We have great opportunities, great roles. That's the easy part, kind of selling the role. The hard part is enabling and encouraging and creating the type of culture and environment that all of these individuals will want to stay.
That's a great point. It's wonderful to hear that Timken has not only recognized that but is pursuing those things. Right. But talking about that point in time where you ring the bell and you get to work that kind of strict leads me into Geoff Karcher's world, where I believe things are so structured and so nailed down that. That he's on a path to guaranteed success. Geoff, would you like to address the same three questions then, essentially what you're looking for, what you're seeing, and what you're doing?
Yeah.
And thank you, Tracy, by the way. Thank you very much.
Needless to say, our world is mildly different from the world of Timken. 30 people is much easier. We were talking just before this that if I find 3 people, I have 10% growth in my staff. It's a dramatic difference. But we're also unique in that in a way, this transition is a little easier for us because in our industry, there are already built-in expectations. So when we're looking for people, we're looking for a few things. We're looking for character and integrity, number one. Number two, are they an enthusiast about what they're doing? Because of especially with the millennials, they've grown up around what we do. So half of them have had classes on it, in high school or college. But they might see it as a job opportunity, but not necessarily something that they're passionate about. And that's something that we try to decipher early on is this something that you really want to do? You do it in your free time. The people that become the leaders in our business are the ones that it's a lifestyle for them. If you're a designer or a programmer or whatever, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle that you happen to get paid to do. And that's what we're trying to find. And needless to say, in our market, that's a little bit difficult. We are looking far and wide for people. But the character and whether or not they're enthusiasts are, about the piece of our business that they may or may not fit into are probably the number one and number two things that we're looking for. And then believe it or not, third is experience, because there are so few people actually who have experience. In what we do, it's a brand new industry. There are a few who've been doing this for 10 or 15 or 12 years. So we actually are believers that we'll train them, we'll give you the experience, we'll bring you in young if you have those first two attributes. You're an honest person, you're willing to work hard, and you actually enjoy this, then we'll teach you how to do it. So from what we're looking for standpoint, it is mildly different. I believe that in our market, as compared to other markets around the country, an advantage that we have from an economic development standpoint and from a business owner standpoint is even though the general rule or the tendencies of the millennials is to be very confident and self-focused and agenda-focused and, some would say willing to look for the next, building their resume and looking for the next best opportunity all the time. Our basic manufacturing background here does allow some of these kids to see that in their parents and see that sense of loyalty and gives them at least a little bit more of an opportunity that the day that they hit your doorstep and they start working for you, they're not already putting their resume out, which is incredibly common in our industry, at least in other parts of the country. So to summarize what we're looking for integrity and enthusiasm for what they do or the part of our business that they may or may not fit into. What we're finding is interesting as well. Number one, we're not finding a lot of people that, surprisingly, as new and exciting as the web business is, you would think our doors would be flooded with people looking for opportunities, but we're looking very, very hard, and it's very difficult. And we're working with the universities trying to, build some programs and build a workforce base, because that's a real challenge. The ones that we do find certainly line up perfectly with, for the most part, with, the general tendencies that were mentioned. Their lifestyle is completely different. Those of us that started the Karcher Group 10 years ago were all Gen Xers. So there are only 5 or 6 of us left, maybe 7 or 8 of us left. We have virtually one person who's a baby boomer, so we don't even have that aspect to deal with. We just have the Gen Xers and the millennials. And these folks are a totally different breed. They don't expect to be at work by 8 or 8:30 or 9. They expect to put in a long day's work, but it might start at 10 and might end at 10. It's a social thing for them as opposed to a job. So they view when they come to work, they're going to work, and most of them, they work very hard when they're working, but they play hard when they play. And we're trying to find ways to adapt our business to allow that to happen so that they can get their work done but enjoy it, because if they're not enjoying it, they're not going to stick around. And I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what the third.
The Karcher Group, I hear, has done some very innovative things to inspire and retain employees.
Well, I guess compared to traditional businesses, they may be innovative. To our world, they're sort of standards. Little things, our schedule. We generally work in 8-ish to 5-ish day, but there's a lot of ish in there for some of the employees. So, it's basically has become, if you get your job done and you get your work done, no one's going to be on your back finding out when you're here and when you're not. Little things like many people who come to our office are surprised to walk in and they see a pool table when they walk in the door, and they see a foosball table in the back, and there's a deck out back with a barbecue grill, and it's a very different environment from a corporate standpoint. And those things actually get used. It's not that it's there so that our clients see it so that we can look like we have the Silicon Valley look. Someone is always playing a game of pool or always playing a game of foosball. And it works, I believe, to our advantage, because it lets them get up and socialize with each other, and actually it builds that teamwork, because you see little relationships being built between the people who are playing these games and doing these things, and they'll be playing a game of foosball, working out a problem or figuring something out that they're struggling with when they were sitting at their desk staring at their monitor. So those are some of the things that we do. We take an annual camping trip where we take the entire staff, everybody's families, and we go together. We spend about 4 or 5 days, and we live out of campers and tents. It's a great thing. It's from a team building standpoint and a relationship building standpoint. Our customers look at it as, well, you're going to shut your offices down for 3 days and go camping? On the flip side of that, the work that we do shows what it does when you build relationships like that and allow these people to just be themselves, but be at work and be themselves, because they begin to work for each other as opposed to working for a paycheck. And I think that's a big part of what these folks are about, is they want to work for each other and for what they want. They're not necessarily working for a corporation the way it used to be.
Well, thank you very much. And being in the education biz, as I am, I constantly monitor language for new terms, different ways to relate. And I'm picking up from Geoff a term I hadn't heard before, and that is the ish factor. And now moving to the world of healthcare, where ish might not fit as well. You're kind of well-ish, or you're sick-ish. Sue, would you like to address then the same 3 questions from the standpoint of Altman?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And this is a topic that I'm excited to speak about. I could probably be here for a half hour, but I won't do that to Frank or any of you.
Correct.
I'll get the hook, and some of the people in the audience that I work with said they're going to give me the cutoff if I go too long. But anyway, similar to the Timken Company, when we hire, we have specific positions many times that we need to find, such as staff nurses, pharmacists, therapists. So before we get into some of the soft skills, we have to identify, do they meet that criteria first? Get past that, what are we looking for in candidates? There are so many things that we look for, it's hard to narrow it down to 2 or 3, but I'll do my best. And what I did is, I don't